In the heart of the Iraqi desert, the air thick with shocking dust and the acrid tang of diesel fume. The sun blazed across the horizon, setting it ablaze, when Sergeant Daniel Brox leaned against his inve, a cigarette clinging to his lip. Across from him, a young soldier, barely all enough to shave, knelt busy disco, murmuring word Daniel hadn't uttered in decade. A small silver medal shimmered in the young man's hand. A bitter log escaped Daniel. Do you really think that thing is going to stop a bullet? The young man looked up, his gaze imshakable, profoundly calm. It already HAS, Sergeant. You just don't know it yet. Hours later, when the convoy crawled through the treacherous narrow pass outside Mosul, Daniel remembered that look, that quiet confidence. He remembered the medal flashing on in the sunlight. Then, a cataclysmic explosion ripped through the air, shattering the desert calm like a primal scream. When the dust finally settled, the world irrevocably shifted. This is the story of a soldier whose corned face, and of the profound miracle that irrevocably altered his destiny. Daniel Brox had worn the uniform for nearly 15 years, 3 tours, dozens of harrowing missions, and a relentless torrent of memory that haunted his night. Back home, people called men like him heroes. But in his heart, Daniel carried something far heavier than any medal, the crushing silence of disbelief. He hadn't always been that way. Once, long ago, a small wooden crucifix had hung over his childhood bed. His mother's gentle lips would brush it each night before she extinguished the lamp. When she died of cancer while he was deployed in Afghanistan, his nice face withered and died with her. After that, the word God became a hollow echo and dared not voice. Fate, he decided, was something for people who needed comfort, not soldiers who demanded absolute control. He was a master of control, of rule, routine, and command. Every morning, his boots were laced tight, his rifle clean spotless, his helmet bearing the stark, indelible names of fallen Conrad. But there was no solace, no logic, for prayer. To Daniel, war was a brutal equation of angle, distance, and probability. And in math, miracles were an irrational variable. HIS Uni, the 3rd Infantry, had endured every horror, from roadside bombs to ambush in the dead of night. They called him Iron Sergeant not because he was fearless, but because his resolve never wavered. When shell exploded, other instinctively recoiled, Daniel pressed onward. But there was a profound and terrible cost to that impenetrable armor. Every time a younger soldier died under his command, a vital fragment of his soul calcified. He stopped writing home, stopped calling his sister. HIS belief in anything unseen, unheard, or intangible simply vanished. Now stationed at an outpost near Mosul, he led a diverse uni, seasoned veteran and nerveux recruits. To them, Daniel stood à un impénétrable bastion, imbreakable, inshakable, utterly intouchable. But beneath that hard star and the ever-presence of gun oil, a fissure was beginning to form, a creeping, silent fatigue that no amount of discipline could suppress. At night, when the desert wind ghosted through the combatant, Daniel Sometim coped himself listening for fear, before a sound he knew, his mother's voice saying, the rosary. Then he violently shoved the thought as he'd indignate another solace-seeking cigarette. No, face doesn't save you here, he inwardly scolded himself. Only rigorous training does. He clung to that belief until the day a new recruit arrived, carrying a small, glinting medal and a face so profound it would challenge every hardened precept Daniel held about survival. He arrived just after dawn, stepping off the supply truck with a pack almost dwarfing his frame. Private Miguel Alvarez, 21, Texas-born kind of kid who still said yes sir even when nobody asked him to. He had dark eyes, deep and calm and undisturbed pool, and a voice so gentle it seemed to absorb the desert's harsh clamor. Daniel watched him from the shadow of the mess tent, arms crossed. New recruits were always the same, wide-eyed, nervous, transparently feigning bravery. But there was something different about this one. He wore a small silver medal around his neck, shimmering brightly against the grimy canvas of his uniform. What is that? Daniel asked when they met. Protection, Sergeant, the boy said with a gentle, knowing smile. From my mother. That thing. Daniel scoffed, a dismissive shake of his head. Out here, you need armor, not fairy tales. Some team, Miguel replied softly, there the something. It was said de voix of arrogance, stripped of fear, infusé only with quiet, unyielding conviction. And that, more than anything, profoundly unsettled Daniel. Over the following weeks, the desert it mercilessly tested every soul. Patrol stretched for grueling hours, sand fled tear exposed skin, and sleep came only in fragmented snatch. But Miguel never complained. When the other cursed the sun or the ration pack, et murmure soft prayer bene at his breath. When Someon got sick, et shared his mige water. When a fight almost broke out over missing ammo, et stepped between them with a serene authority, if mediating conflict were second nature. One night, Daniel caught him sitting on a crat, gently tracing the smooth edge of his medal with his thumb. Still think that trinkets got power, he asked. Miguel nodded. It's not about power, Sergeant. It's about reminding me who's watching over me. Daniel scoffed, you think God has got time for soldier. I think he never stop watching, even when we stop believing. The simplicity of that statement struck Daniel with more force than any incoming round. Daniel turned away, muttering a dismissive retort about blind superstition. But deep inside, he felt an unsettling tremor of unease. Notre âge, but a profound, unwelcome envy. Envy of how this young man could harbor such profound peace amid the suffocating chaos. A few days later, they were assigned to the same patrol team. Miguel on come in the passenger seat, Daniel driving. The medal swung gently from Miguel's neck, catching the harsh desert light with every jolt of the HV. Daniel tried not to notice. He told himself it was just a glare, just sunlight. But some time, when the road stretched endlessly ahead and silence filled the cabin, he they glance over and see the boy's lips moving in a soft, incessant prayer. He didn't understand it. He didn't want to, but a persist, unsettling intuition know that him, maybe, just maybe, that key face wasn't a vulnerability. It was an impregnable strength, a kind of courage Daniel had long forgotten. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he heard his mother's voice again, whispering a prayer he hadn't remembered in years, I Mary, full of grace. His jaw tightened, and he forced his gaze back to the desolate ribbon of road. Because soldiers like him didn't pray, they endure. Or so he thought. The desert has a way of flaying men down to their raw, unvarnished essence. Out there, miles from anything that felt like home, faith and stark terror resided in a fragile, uneasy coexistence, demanding en absolute allegiance. In Daniel's uni, that invisible line was sharply drawn the day Miguel joined. Some of the soldiers found comfort in the prayer and murmur before patrol. Others scoffed openly, labeling him padre or church boy. And Daniel? He stayed silent. He let them tease, even joined in some team. But deep down, it wasn't a myth, it was a profound, gnawing unease. There was an undeniable, key authority emanating from Miguel that even the most battle-hardened veteran couldn't entirely dismiss. He didn't argue, didn't preach, he simply believed. And that key conviction resonated more profoundly than any impatient sermon. Every morning before they rolled out, he would solemnly trace a small cross over his combat vest. Blessing the vehicle now, Alvarez? Daniel Eston dripped with sarcasm, catching him doing the same gesture over the HV. If he could, Sergeant, he'd bless the entire desert, Miguel countered with an easy grin. The other looked. But not Daniel. That kind of peace didn't make sense to him. He had seen too much bloodshed, too many body bags to conceive that mere prayer could possibly forestall death. But the thing about faces, it doesn't demand rational understanding, it simply demand authenticity. And Miguel's was. The crucial turning point came one night after a long patrol. A brutal roadside skirmish had left them profoundly shaken. One of the men, Corporal Jenkins, was hit by shrapnel. They managed to stabilize him, but morale plummeted precariously. Inside the dim tent, the squad sat in silence, face etched with exhaustion, bathed in the sickly glow of a single engine lamp. Miguel reached for his medal and started praying softly in Spanish. Daniel S. Patience fractured. A snapped, enough with the theatrics, Alvarez. You think praying will patch him up? A profound silence descended, so absolute it seemed even the desert wind LTTS breeze. Miguel looked at him, not with anger, but with a profound, qui est sadness. No, Sergeant, but maybe it'll patch us up. No one spoke after that. Late that night, when everyone else was asleep, Daniel stepped outside. The star above Iraq blazed like scattered diamonds across a vast, inky velvet canvas. He lit a cigarette, but s'en trembled incontrollably. Et added that the kid had penetrated his hardened exterior. Et added even more that for the first time in years, he wasn't entirely certain he was still right. The next morning, Miguel approached him quietly. You don't have to believe what he believe, Sergeant, he said. But someday you'll see what he've seen. Daniel didn't answer. He just stared at the medal hanging from Miguel's neck, gently swaying with each steady breath. Something about it bothered him. Not the object itself, but the serene aura it seemed to emanate, like it possessed a knowledge far beyond his comprehension. In a few days, that calm would be tested in way neither of them could imagine. The air that night was unnaturalistic, if the vast desert itself felt ts breeze. Inside the base, the men of Delta Squad moved with a sombre, deliberate slowness. They'd received the briefing hours earlier, a down patrol through a narrow stretch of road ominously known to local as the Dead Valley. Intel warned of EEDS, perhaps en ambush, but everyone knew what that really meant, no certainty of return. Daniel sat at his bank, methodically disassembling and cleaning his rifle for the third time. It was a meticulous ritual to occupy his restless and silence the encroaching anxiety of his mind. Across the room, Miguel knelt busy disco, the small silver medal resting in his palm. His lips moved silently, fingers tracing the worn bead of a rosary fashion from parachute corps. Daniel tried to ignore it at first, but the soft murmur of prayer permeated the tense air like a calming steady, unwavering. It was the voix of drama or desperation, en intimate, unwavering conversation with a trusted friend. He finally broke the charged silence, his gaze still fixed on his rifle. You know, he muttered, if you really believe in that stuff, tomorrow is the perfect day to prove it. Miguel smiled faintly. You don't have to prove it, Sergeant. You just have to live it. That key response ignited a deeper irritation in Daniel than any fiery sermon. He slammed the rifle component back into place and stood. You pray, he plan. Let's see whose method works. Miguel nodded. Med boat, Sergeant. The stark simplicity of that reply disarmed Daniel. He didn't understand how someone could face possible death and still sound peaceful. Et des men descend into a frenzy of fear before mission far less perilous, passing restlessly, muttering desperate plea, or drowning their anxiety in cheap liquor. But Miguel's hand didn't shake. His eyes didn't wave. After the lights were extinguished, Daniel lay awake, listening to the wind outside the tent. He thought about home, about Ohio, his father is all Chevy, his mother humming hymns in the kitchen. He hadn't prayed since her funeral. Back then, he'd asked God to save her. God hadn't answered. And that silence had turned into an impenetrable wall of silence that no force could breach until now, until this kid from Texas started murmuring prayer pot enough to reverberate through the winning crack in Daniel's long hardened hat. Around midnight, Miguel's voice pierced the fragile stillness once more. Do you want me to pray for you, too, Sergeant? Daniel turned over, pretending to be asleep. But deep down, something in him, a tiny, stubborn amber of his soul, yearned to utter yes. Miguel continued anyway, softly, almost a tender lullaby, blessed mother, keep us safe. Guide those who have lost their face back to you. Let them know they're never alone, even here. The desert wind howled outside, violently rattling the canvas flap of the tent. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt no surge of anger at those words. Instead, he felt seen, if someone, or something, was listening, truly listening, across the vast, indifferent desert night. Et didn't sleep much. When down came, the horizon bled a fin, metallic gold, and the can slowly stirred to life with the guttural roar of engines warming. Miguel fastened his medal around his neck. Daniel strapped on his helmet. Neither spoke, but both arbored the silent certainty that this day would irrevocably alter their fate. The sky over Mosul was a grim, unforgiving still grey that morning. Pale light filtered through the dust, bleaching everything to a uniform, sombre grey, tan, rifle, even the soldier face. No one said much during breakfast. Every man in the squad understood the chilling implication of the dead valley. You didn't return unscathed, if you returned at all. Daniel checked the convoy one last time, fingé absently tracing the scarred metal of his inve. Aided on this routine at 200 times, inspect. Verify. Control. It was his only encore in the swirling madness. But today, something felt different. There was a palpable weight in the air of fear, but a profound, almost primal awareness, the kind that preceded a cataclysmic storm. Miguel walked up, cinching the strap of his combat vest. The small silver medal rested just above his hat. Daniel cocked it shimmering in the night light. You planning to blind the enemy with that thing, he remarked, a der edge to his voice. Miguel smiled. If it help, maybe that's how miracle work. Daniel rolled his eyes, but the word stuck in his head. At 0800 hours, the engines thundered to life. Dust billowed like an ominous shroud behind the convoy as it moved through the open plain. The radio crackled, voices calm but clipped, professional. Daniel led the second vehicle, Miguel buzzed him on com. Through the windshield, the desert stretched endlessly, a shimmering blur of endless sand and distorting it as. Miguel prayed quietly, thumb gently pressing the cool metal against his finger. Daniel noticed but said nothing. The faint, rhythmic sound of the prayer exerted a strange, almost hypnotic calm between them. It reminded him of something ancient, a truth predating all conflict. Half an hour later, the terrain narrowed. Jagged cliff, like monstrous, broken teeth, loomed on either side. The convoy slowed. A flock of birds erupted from the rock, a primal alarm. Daniel's combat instinct screamed to life. He shaked the mirror, scanned the ridge. Nothing. Yet, en ici prémonition tightened his grip, and his pulse hammered. Then Miguel spoke, a low, almost imperceptible whisper. Do you feel that, Sergeant? Daniel frowned. Feel what? Like the very air HAS suddenly stilled. Before Daniel could answer, a single, piercing shaft of sunlight sliced through a rent in the oppressive clouds, directly illuminating Miguel's chest. The medal flashed with an almost unbearable brilliance. Daniel squinted, a flash of irritation crossing his face. Pudetting away, Alvarez. You'll give away our position and didn't finish the sentence. A distant, sharp click echoed, hollow and final. And then, the world ignited. A cataclysmic thunderclap ripped through the valley, swallowing the lead vehicle. The shockwave slammed into Daniel's inve, a brutal, physical blow that buckled metal and shredded tear. Glass exploded inward like shrapnel. The vehicle reeled, spinning violently, tossing Daniel against the interior. HIS vision went white, then fractured into a kaleidoscope of smoke and screaming metal. It tasted blood, dust, gunpowder. Through the swirling chaos, time itself seemed to stretch, and they saw Miguel, clutching the shimmering medal, his eyes wide yet profoundly calm as if witnessing something Daniel couldn't comprehend. Then, the light, and everything, dissolved into suffocating blackness. For a moment, there was only the wrong, thick silence that followed an impossible sound. Then, a cacophony of muffled screams and the frantic static of the radio pierced the ringing in his ear. Contact. We hit. Down. Down. HIS body refused to obey. The air in the mangled cabin was thick with shocking smoke and the metallic tang of blood. He dragged his gas to Miguel. The young soldier was slumped forward, half conscious, his face streaked with dirt and grime. But the miraculous medal, half hidden by soot, still clung to his neck, glowing with a faint, impossible luminescence through the haze. There was no sunlight here, deep in the wreckage. Daniel forced himself to crawl, his legs screaming in protest. Alvarez. Talk to me, kid. Miguel's eyes fluttered open. He lifted a trembling hand, note to Daniel, gesturing desperately beyond the shattered windshield. Through the fragmented view, Daniel glimpsed a shadowy figure moving, insurgent swarming along the ridge. Instinct, honed by years of combat, instantly seized control. He snatched his rifle, chamber around. HIS vision swam, bu et fired in controlled burst, aiming for the ridge, covering the scattered convoy. Bullet whined and ricocheted off rock. Scream, human and mechanical, tore through the air. Behind him, another ave erupted in a fiery blossom, then another explosion, terrifyingly closer. The concussive force hurled Daniel back inside the wreckage, slamming his helmet against jagged metal. He crumpled to the floor. HIS chest armor was deeply dented, his arms trembling uncontrollably. Through the deafening ringing, a faint whisper reached him, carried on the wind, Miguel's voice, she's here. Daniel blinked, struggling to comprehend. What? She's here, Sergeant. She's with us. The words were nonsensical, born of trauma, Daniel thought. But when he forced his head to turn towards the wreckage, he froze. Through the swirling smoke, amid the inferno and dust, stood a figure. Fin, ethereal, pure white, utterly motionless. A woman's silhouette. Her robe seemed to ripple with an invisible breeze, even took the air was utterly still. For a suspended heartbeat, Daniel's concussed mind screamed hallucination. But then, the flames themselves seemed to par and bend around her, recoiling from her presence. Her face remained veiled by an exquisite, une earthly glare, but the light that enveloped her was not fire, it was soft, golden, like the sacred glow of stained glass at dawn. Miguel's labored breathing eased. A weak, beatific smile touched his lips. Told you, Sergeant. She watched over us. Daniel tried to speak, but his throat constricted. A profound, terrifying calm washed over him. The raging chaos of battle faded to a distant hum. The bullet, the scream, even time itself, seemed too slow, then still. He heard only the soft, impossible whisper of wind and the thunder of his own heart. Then, abruptly as she had appeared, the radiant figure dissolved into the smoke. The wind returned, harsh and real. Reality crashed back in with a brutal jolt. Daniel dragged Miguel from the incinerated vehicle, half carrying, half pulling him towards the precarious shelter of the rock. Behind them, the envy erupted in a final, searing conflagration. The air thickened with furious gunfire, desperate shoot, and the frantic thrumming rotor of an arriving medevac helicopter. He felt the scorching heat of an explosion at his back too close. A brutal, metallic impact slammed into his helmet with a deafening crack. The force hurled him forward, his vision flickering between darkness and blinding light. When his trembling fingers touched his head, they came away slick with blood. Yet, he was conscious. The jagged shard of shrapnel that should have pierced his skull was lodged impossibly halfway into the hardened steel of his helmet, its edge bent and blackened. He should have been dead. He should have been dead. He looked at Miguel, still bleeding, unconscious, but breathing. The medal, still clinging to his neck, pulsed with a faint, ethereal glow against the boy's dusty uniform. Daniel stared, mesmerized, as the cacophony around him once again receded into a profound silence. In that quay, amid the stench of blood, diesel, and burning sand, a voice, not external but deep within his very soul, resonated, "Fate saves more than armor ever will." And before the encroaching darkness finally claimed him, Daniel whispered the only prayer he remembered, a distant echo from his childhood, "I Mary, full of grace." Then, everything was black. When Daniel opened his eyes again, the world was not merely grey with dust, but muted, almost ethereal, half glimpsed through a veil. Sound came back slowly, distant gunfire, the whirring rotor of distant helicopter, men shooting order that faded into static. HIS had throbbed. Every breath felt the acrid tang of burnt metal and ash. He was lying face down in the sand. The heat pressed against him, searing his skin through the tattered remnant of his uniform. He pushed himself up, his arms trembling, the weight of the helmet pulling at his neck. It was dented, cracked, busty intact. Blood ran down from his hairline, but he was alive. By all rights, he shouldn't have been. The first thing he saw was Miguel. The young soldier was lying a few feet away, motionless, save for the faint, steady rise and fall of his chest. The medal still clung to his neck, obscured by a layer of soot. Daniel crawled to him, shouting his name. Alvarez, stay with me, kid. Do you hear me? No answer. Only the desolate whisper of the wind through the ravaged canyon. Then he noticed it. A light. Faint at first, amer glimmer, like a reflection. But there was no surface to cast it, no mirror, no intact glass, only the grim expanse of smoke and wreckage. It was coming from the medal. The silver glow shimmered, intensified, piercing the obscuring haze. Daniel blinked hard, thinking it was a hallucination born of trauma. But the light didn't fade. It pulsed alive, warm, unwavering. And then, it began to move. The smoke around them began to swirl, inexorably drawn towards the emanating light. The air thickened, vibrating with a sound too gentle for thunder, too profound for wind. Daniel froze. Every primal instinct screamed for flight. But his body couldn't move. Through the haze, the glow began to take shape. First a curve of light, then the discernible outline of a figure, a woman, not sharp or solid, but woven from pure light, dust, and the very air itself. Her robe, edged with the palest blue, seemed to be woven from the smoke itself, flowing gracefully despite the utter absence of wind. Her face, serene, compassionate, imbued with a sorrowful, unearthly beauty that transcended human form. And though she didn't speak, Daniel heard her, not through his ear, but directly into the core of his soul, do not be afraid. He have always been here. He couldn't breathe. Tears, hot and unexpected, streamed down his dust-caked cheek before he even registered their presence. The entire cacophony of war seemed to recede, dissolve. The explosion, the shooting, even the pain. There was only an infinite light, an absolute peace. Miguel stirred weakly, his voice barely a whisper, tint a sigh. She's here. He told you, Sergeant. Daniel clutched his shoulder. You're hallucinating, Alvarez. Hold on, kid. But Miguel shook his head slowly, eyes halfly dead. No, she came for you, too. The light intensified, spreading, touching Daniel's chest like a warm, ethereal hand. He felt it penetrate his cracked helmet, his very rib, searing directly into his heart. Every entrenched bitterness, every corrosive dew, every ardent scar within him seemed to dissolve, release, all at once. He collapsed to his knees, trembling uncontrollably. He hadn't prayed in 15 years, but the word, unbidden, ancient, welled up from a place deep within his forgotten soul, I Mary, full of grace. The figure looked at him one last time, eyes brimming with a profound, undeserved love, and then slowly dissolved back into the smoke, leaving only the faintest whisper of jasmine and the inexplicable, metallic sound of hope. Daniel looked down. The medal's incandescent glow softened, returning to OTS Mindan silver sheen. The smoke cleared, and from the cliff above, the medevac helicopter finally descended, UTS rotor beating a frantic rhythm. But Daniel couldn't take his eyes off that metal, because for the first time in his life, he knew the world was not a desolate, empty-expanse, and he was profoundly, utterly, not alone. The next thing Daniel remembered was the monotone hum of generator, a steady, artificial drone that felt almost too clean after the desert's grey. He opened his eyes to the blinding, antiseptic white of the field hospital. The sharp tang of antiseptic replaced the lingering stench of smoke and gunpowder. The cacophony of battle had receded, replaced by the hushed murmur of medic and the soft beep of machine. He was alive. The canvas roof of his mobile tent swayed slightly above him. Et tried to sit up, bu a searing pin shot truis eden fractured rib. A nurse rushed over, gently pressing him back down. Easy, sergent. You've got a concussion and a cracked rib. You're lucky to be breathing. Daniel's voice was raw and hoarse. Where's Alvarez? Private Miguel Alvarez. She hesitated, glancing toward another co across the hall. He stable, lost a lot of blood, but make it. Relief, sharp and overwhelming, slammed into Daniel, bringing a sudden, unbidden sting to his eyes. He hadn't realized how much the boy meant to him until that moment. Hours passed in a hazy blur of morphine-induced half-sleep. When he finally woke again, the nurse handed him a sterilized plastic bag. Inside were his belongings, his watch, dog tag, and helmet. The sight of it sent a cold tremor through his stomach. He lifted the helmet with both hands, staring at the gaping, savage gouge across the TS top. A jagged, black-burned piece of shrapnel was impossibly embedded halfway into the hardened steel, TS edge bent and blackened. The nurse pointed to it, shaking her head. That fragment was moving at over 2,000 feet per second. By all physics, it should have pierced clean through. Daniel turned the helmet slowly. The trajectory utterly defied logic. The fragment had struck dead center, precisely where his forehead had been protected. Half an inch deeper, and he simply wouldn't be here. HIS through a constricted. He traced the deep indentation with his finger, following the brutal line of impact. The metal felt strangely warm, almost imbued with life. For a moment, the bleak, sterile light of the hospital dissolved, replaced by the ethereal golden glow he witnessed in the swirling smoke. He could still hear Miguel's voice, "She's here. She's with us." He swallowed hard, a profound truth settling within him, and whispered, "Maybe you were right, kid." When the doctor came to check on him, Daniel inquired if the fragment could have been deflected by a thin debris or a fortunate ricochet. The doctor shook his head. "No, sergeant. The physics don't align. Something defied the laws of motion and inexplicably decelerated it. Whatever it was, it saved your life." Daniel simply nodded. He didn't need to argue. He knew, with absolute certainty, what it was. That night, when the others slept, he reached for his worn duffel bag. Inside, among his things, was Miguel's small, laminated prayer card, adorned with the image of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. On the back, in fading ink, were the word Miguel had murmured countless times, "O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee." Daniel gazed at the word for a long, quiet moment. Then, with a resolute lack of hesitation, he tenderly slipped the card into the very lining of his helmet, precisely beneath the miraculous scar that had saved him. He wrestled with label, luck, coincidence, even en anomaly. But deep within, his soul recognized the undeniable, profound truth. For the first time since his mother's death, he gazed upward at the dark canvas roof of the town and whispered, a raw, heartfelt sound, "Thank you." The deaths that followed were quiet, unsettling, almost sacred quiet. For the first time in years, Daniel had no order to give, no frantic radio to answer, no shattering explosion to puncture his sleep, only the gentle beeping of monitor and the steady, insistent rhythm of his own heartbeat. He spent most of his recovery lying in that narrow co, staring at the helmet on the small table beside him. Every time he looked at it, the same thought returned, "Why am I still here?" Logic abandoned him. HIS extensive training offered no answer. Even the meticulously documented doctor's report defied rational explanation. And so he began to listen again. Not to comment, but to the silence itself. A silence imbued with profound weight. A silence that felt, impossibly, like an echoing presence listening back. Across the hall, Miguel les palpes breathing, his chest rising and falling with a fragile, rhythmic grace beneath the tin sheet. The medal still rested above his hat, a soft, undeniable silver luminescence in the dim light. Daniel would catch himself glancing at it, no longer with cynical mockery, but with a burgeoning, profound reverence. On the fourth night, sleepless and restless, et reached for Miguel's duffel bag. Inside, along with the Sparsoken letters from home, was a small, unassuming booklet titled Pray to Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. Daniel absently flipped through the page, expecting nothing but a fleeting curiosity. But one particular line arrested his very breath, to those who do, let this metal be a sign of my presence. For those who no longer believe, he will come where face has died, and he will plant it again. He read the word repeatedly, if the very paper resonated with living truth. It felt as though those precise words had been penned solely for him. Not the battle-hardened soldier, not the cynical sergeant, but the broken, grieving boy who had once desperately pleaded with God to spare his mother. He looked towards the other cow. Miguel was awake now, watching him with a weak smile. You found it. Miguel whispered, a fragile triumph in his voice. Yes, Daniel murmured, I think he finally did. Miguel's eyes, deep and knowing, softened furtively. It wasn't a luck, Sergeant. You were meant to see it. See what? Daniel asked. That she never left you. For a long moment, neither spoke. Daniel felt a profound shift deep within his spirit. Small, subtle, yet undeniably real. The kind of change that doesn't erupt in a blinding flash of epiphany, but blossom in a whispered breeze, a key heartbeat, a solitary, unacknowledged tear. He reached for his helmet, tracing the indelible dans with his thumb. Then, with a resolute lack of hesitation, he retrieved his mother's cherished doll Rosaria relic and hadn't touched in 15 years sans rapid ts could bead around his wrist. Meb, he said softly, it's time he started truly listening again. Outside, dawn was breaking, and as the first delicate tendril of morning light pierced the canvas, they illuminated two glimmering metal, one ancient, one nas and the transformed soul of a soldier who was, utterly, no longer the same. Simon Latte, the war was not merely a memory, but an indelible part of Daniel, etched in the scar on his body and symbolized by the dented helmet and kept reverently wrapped in cloth. The army classified it as a non-fatal injury sustained in active duty. Daniel, however, knew it was nothing less than profound mercy. When he was finally discharged, he didn't go straight home to Ohio. He purchased a bus ticket to El Paso, Texas. There was a particular soul he desperately needed to find. Miguel was still in rehab, learning to navigate the world again with a new prosthetic leg. Daniel found him sitting under the hospital courtyard's shaded awning, where sunlight dappled across his shoulder. The young man looked tiny, pale, but his eyes still held that same profound, unsettling calm that had once so rattled Daniel in the scorching desert. Sergeant Miguel greeted him, a warm smile spreading across his face. Drop the rank, Daniel said softly, his voice thick with emotion. You saved my life, kid. Miguel shook his head. No, Sergeant. She did. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the gentle, melodic chime of the wind chime. Daniel looked down at his hand. One still bore the faint, indelible tracery of burn scar. You were right, Daniel admitted, his voice barely a whisper, about the medal. About everything. He was just the messenger, Miguel replied. You were the reason it happened. Late that afternoon, they drove together to a modest house on the outskirts of town. Miguel's mother answered the door. A keen-faced woman, her wrist adorned with the familiar bead of a rosary. Her eyes widened in immediate recognition, and tears welled before Daniel could utter a single word. You were the one, she whispered. My son told me you saw her, too. Daniel nodded, words snagged in his throat. He reached into his pocket, his hand closing around the worn helmet and carrier. This saved me, he stated, his voice hushed with awe, and so did your son. The woman reached out, her hand trembling, to gently trace the profound dent. No, she said. The blessed mother saved you both. She disappeared into another room and returned, cradling a small, velvet-lined box. Nestled within was a gleaming new miraculous medal, en exact twin to Miguel's. Take it, she urged, her voice soft but firm. You've already encountered her. Now, let her walk with you. Daniel took the metal in his palm. It was cool against his palm, yet strangely alive, thrumming like a tiny, steady heartbeat. He fastened it around his neck, letting it rest beside his dog tag. For the first time in 15 years, both felt incredibly light. As the sun set, drenching the vast sky in hue of molten gold and deep violet, Daniel stood on the porch, looking west. The wind carried the faint, distant peal of church bell from the nearby chapel. He closed his eyes. If you were truly still there, he whispered into the twilight, thank you. Thank you for never giving up on me. Peace. 5 years later, on a crisp, quiet Sunday morning in Ohio, the modest veteran chapel bathed in a cascade of golden sunlight. It streamed through stained glass windows, drenching the ancient wooden pews in warm, river hue of red and gold. The air smelled faintly of incense and old wood, the kind of timeless aroma that evoke a profound sense of memory and sanctity. Daniel stood at the front, his crisp uniform pressed, his hair now streaked with silver. In his hand, he held the same helmet, still bearing ETS indelible dans, ETS profound scar. Around his neck hung 2 distinct pieces of metal, his dog tag, and the gleaming miraculous medal bestowed by Miguel's mother. He was there to speak, not merely a soldier, but a profound, unwavering witness. Dozens of veterans sat before him, men who, like him, had witnessed too much horror and believed too little hope. They had gathered for what was called the Day of Healing, an annual gathering where veterans shared their tales of survival. Many spoke of luck, of rigorous skill, of disciplined training. Daniel, however, spoke of something far more extraordinary. He began quietly, his voice initially lasted with a profound humility. He used to think armor was my salvation, Kevlar, helmet, tactical prowess, absolute control. He lifted the scarred, dented helmet for all to see, a stark symbol. But one day, in a place called the Dead Valley, something inexplicably arrested a piece of shrapnel that, by all rights, should have ended my life. And it was not still. The room was silent. Only the faint creak of all wood resonated through the hushed chapel. Daniel's voice softened. He saw light in the smoke that day. Not the destructive glare of fire, nor the brutal flash of an explosion. Something pure, something utterly beyond human explanation. And he remembered thinking, if that is not God's mercy, then nothing is. He paused, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Some of you might think he imagined it. Maybe he did. But what he knows is this, that light didn't merely preserve my life. It resurrected my very soul. From the back row, a wizened veteran whispered, a fervent amen. Other bowed their head. Daniel offered a faint, gentle smile, his gaze lifting to the statue of the Virgin Mary poised serenely behind the altar. The sunlight from the stained glass fell perfectly across her sculpted face, forming a soft, beatific halo of gold. For a moment, it felt, profoundly, as though she was gazing directly back. He set the helmet down beside the pulpit, his hand now steady, his voice clear and resonant. Fate saves more than armor ever will. And the chapel, for the first time in years, descended into a stillness more profound than mere silence, a stillness imbued with absolute peace. After the service, Daniel stepped outside the chapel into the crisp, invigorating Ohio air. Autumn leaves, vibrant gold and fiery red, swirled down from the ancient trees like a gentle cascade of amber. He stood on the chapel step for a long, quiet moment, his eyes closed, letting the warm sunlight bat his face. It was the same warmth they felt years ago in the smoke of that desert. A warmth that, he now understood, had no name but divine love. From across the courtyard, a familiar voice, warm and clear, called out, Sergeant Brox. He turned and saw Miguel walking toward him, can in hand, his uniform jacket impeccably pressed, the miraculous medal gleaming brightly against his chest. Time had wrought its inevitable change on them both, yet their eyes met with the profound, quiet recognition of brothers who had traversed something eternal together. Miguel smiled. You're still wearing it. Daniel nodded, gently touching the medal around his neck. Never once, since the day your mother so graciously gave it to me. Miguel laughed softly, a sound of pure joy. Then she kept her promise. She said, "Whoever were it with face she promised, will never, ever walk alone." They stood side by side, watching the golden sunlight spill across the weathered chapel walls. For a long time, neither spoke. There was nothing left to explain, no lingerie need to prove what they had already profoundly lived. Daniel looked at the distant horizon, his voice quiet, yet resonant with profound conviction. You know, he used to think miracles were extraordinary events, reserved for other people. Now he believed they are simply for anyone humble enough to notice them. Miguel nodded. And brave enough to share them. Daniel smiled, a genuine, radiant smile this time no the hardened, practiced mask soldier or to conseil alpin. Then perhaps, that is precisely what we are meant to do now. They walked together down the chapel path, two soldiers, irrevocably marked by grass, their metal glinting, catching the fading light of the day. And somewhere between the soft rustling of leaves and the melodious toll of distant church bell, Daniel whispered one final prayer, not born of fear, but of boundless gratitude. Blessed Mother, thank you for finding me in the smoke. If you believe in the enduring power of miracle, share this story with someone who need a beacon of hope today. And remember to subscribe to Touched by Grace for more profound, real life account of faith, love, and the unseen, guiding hand of God.